hit with an Aaron puck in his famous inside the glass position.
Wow.
Watch out, Pierre. Look at that. There's like lesson in it.
Oh, sorry there.
I don't even know if you saw it come. Like, can you tell me?
No, because he's not even
look, the action is a little late.
Yeah, I don't know what he was watching.
Wow.
Is that when he caught him right in the eye?
Yeah, I've been bad.
It could have been ugly.
Yeah.
Woo.
Cool shot, though, right?
Yeah, time for some stories to start your morning. Lincoln Riley had high praise for his former quarterback, saying Kyler Murray has kind of a Barry Sanders effect. Doug, is this fair praise?
I actually think there's some parallels there. Obviously, Barry Sanders, Oklahoma State, whereas Kyler Murray's Oklahoma, but both were really backups, only started 1 year. Kyler started a little bit at A&M. But there's this lack of size, and you can't see him, and then you can't catch him, and you think you have him, and he's elusive, and yeah, it kind of makes sense. Look, I've had an NFL GM tell me that the best combination would be, he said, Doug Flutie with Mike Vick's athleticism. But if you want to say a Barry Sanders quality to him, I'm okay with that because you're talking about football royalty.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley was talking about his elusiveness, his ability to avoid the huge hit. And that'll be big for him. He's obviously going to run some in the NFL. And when he doesn't get down, he needs to learn how to slide for sure, get out of bounds for sure. But when he does get hit, if he can slide with it, roll with the hit, and he has that skill, as Riley's talking about, that'll serve him well.
I think there is one point that should be made that hasn't been made yet, and I think will once we get close to the draft. Yes, the numbers are better than Baker Mayfield. He may have better raw talent than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield did have a leadership quality and a verbal quality that I don't know if Kyler has.
Slide with it, roll with it. Sounds like a song or a dance. The NFL, Matt LaFleur has a big task ahead of him, bonding with quarterback Aaron Rodgers. The Packers coach reportedly plans to hit Rodgers from all angles this offseason. Chris, how much pressure is on Aaron Rodgers after a tumultuous 2018?
He received more criticism this last season than he ever has, and people are starting to look at it, especially as Tom Brady continues to rack up these Super Bowl appearances and wins. People are now starting to look at Aaron Rodgers, and were we premature in saying he's the best passer of the football we've ever seen? Why doesn't he win more? Last year, they didn't even make the playoffs. His numbers were down. We're starting to see, Patrick Mahomes and other guys put up prolific numbers, and Aaron didn't, at least last season. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I think Matt LaFleur, if he's, hitting with all angles, as he said, if he can impress Rodgers with his schemes and his game planning and what he wants to do, his play calls, I think Aaron will buy in because he was longing for some of that with Mike McCarthy. He didn't feel like he was getting it. So if LaFleur impresses him, I think Aaron will be all in.
Look, I think they have the running back that they've wanted with Aaron Jones. Devontae Adams, I think, can be an elite wide receiver. They had a lot of youth kind of at some of the other wide receiver positions for much of last season because of injury. And doesn't Matt LaFleur know Sean McVay? I mean, doesn't that automatically make him? He's automatically make him a genius.
You think that's what Rodgers is expecting? That
I do. Look, there's a balance there because you can't simply hire a coach simply to impress and to fix the quarterback because the rest of the team sees that and feels that. So there's a lot of juggling that has to be done. But I think Green Bay is closer to being the playoffs than they are to being a disaster. I still think Aaron Rodgers, the best thrower of a football we've ever seen.
Moving on to Odell Beckham, reports are that the Giants were aggressively shopping him last offseason. That was until the Patriots came calling, and then they pulled their star wideout off the market. Remember, the Giants signed Odell to a 5-year extension last summer. Chris, would Odell have worked out with the Patriots?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I would love to see. I would love to see Tom Brady with an elite wide receiver. I remember starting to begin to think, Tom Brady could be in the GOAT conversation when he first started playing with Randy Moss, because we had never really seen him with that type of receiver. And once he got him, he threw 50 touchdowns. He put on a light show. So I would love to see him with OBJ. Would it work for 6 years? I don't know. Randy Moss he was there for 3, worked for about a year and a half, 2 years. I think an OBJ in New England, or maybe if they go for Antonio Brown or whatever, if they get that type of receiver, I think they could win another Super Bowl. Now, obviously, they can win one anyway. You don't write them off. But I felt like there was a sense of finality to this past Super Bowl. Maybe that's just me. I picked them to win it. They did win it. But now I kind of feel like, okay, it's probably done. But if you get that type of receiver with Tom Brady, it's not done.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the guy that calls it, right? Like, you don't want to be the one that calls time of death, and when all of a sudden, they're back. Because they've been back so many times. Look, we have to take into context the timing of when New England apparently called, right? This is last offseason when there was all the talk that ownership had enough. There was the video of him in the hotel room with a woman would look like cocaine, felt like cocaine, don't know if it was cocaine. And ultimately, he was on good behavior. They gave him a new contract. But it would have been like a Brandon Cooks type deal where they knew that Brandon Cooks wanted to get paid. They had him for 1 year, and then they flipped him to the Rams, or could have let him walk, or could have franchised tag him. We don't know. And I'm guessing that the Giants are like, wait, these guys are the best on the waiver wire of anybody in the history of the NFL. Why we let him go? It doesn't mean that they had to sign him to a huge contract, though, which only empowered him to be more like he's been. It made no sense. And then when I read Jay Glazer making a bold prediction kind of out of nowhere that, hey, Odell Beckham Jr. is traded, that's my bold prediction, I think Jay Glazer knows 15 times more than he ever lets on. When he lets that out of the bag, it's probably going to happen because it's a little bit like divorce, right? Last year they went to the divorce attorney, and maybe they went to therapy, but there's a reason they went to the divorce attorney to begin with. Ultimately, they can't make it work out. He can't function within the bright lights and big city of New York and within the organization based upon how it's structured. They probably had enough if Jay Glazer puts it out.
Well, like you said, look, we don't know what Jay knows. Maybe there's all types of chaos going on behind the scenes in the locker room, whatever. But from what we've seen, what I've seen, I know he had the Lil Wayne interview. You brought up earlier, you know, making a business decision on the onside kick, which is not good. But I haven't seen enough where I would trade him. Now, again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but publicly, I have not seen enough. I look at OBJ as one of the top receivers in the league. I look at the Giants' main problem is they don't have a quarterback. Eli's been great. He probably will be a Hall of Famer. I think he should. But now he's 38 years old. He's not the same. He can't utilize OBJ to the degree that he needs to be utilized. And with OBJ, Evan Ingram at tight end, and Saquon Barkley at running back, if you get a capable quarterback in there, I think this team, at least at the skill positions, would be just about as good as anything out there. So that would be my focus on replacing Eli, even if Eli starts this year. Like, if you bring in Dwayne Haskins, you can groom him under Eli. But they have to be focused on getting another quarterback who can utilize some of the skill position players that they have.
Would you try to move him if you're the Giants? Are you trying to trade him?
There's a major, it's like the Antonio Brown thing, only worse, because they're just starting this contract. Now, they haven't paid a lot of the big money from the contract because it was an extension on the deal, which ends at the end of this year. So it would depend on the financials, depend on what you get back in return. But there's been this movement in the NFL for the last couple of years. It's not just the Patriots. The Dolphins, we had Mike Tannenbaum out here, and I know he lost his job as general manager, but he was with us yesterday. What did they do last offseason? They got rid of Jarvis Landry. He goes to Cleveland, and they get rid of Ndamukong Suh, who walks as a free agent to the Rams. And if Ryan Tannehill is healthy, they probably make the playoffs, and he probably still has his job. That you pick culture and character over talent. Now, you can't have no talent at all, and you can also, the salary cap works. You got to spread that money around. So if I had a plan in place, yeah, I don't see why not, because you're going to win if you can fix the offensive line, if you can fix the defense, and if you can get the future as a quarterback. If you can get a first-round draft pick for him and you can draft Dwayne Haskins with it and then continue to fix your offensive line, your other issues, yeah, I would definitely consider it. I wouldn't give him away, and I would see how we can work with him in the future because he is an immense talent, but he only played 12 games this year, only played 4 games the year before. So forget about what he does off the field and with all the antics, or on the field with the antics. Is he ever going to be healthy for an entire season? The answer has only been yes, 1 year.
When you look at him and what the Giants have done with him, and I know you talked about we're not in the organization, you don't see it on a day-to-day basis, do you feel like New York has done enough, though, for him and to help him reach the potential that he can achieve both on the field but also some of the off-the-field stuff as well?
Well, certainly not on the field. And you're right, he's been injured, so there's no doubt about that. But I believe, as great as Saquon Barkley was last year and is going forward, quarterback is just a much more important position than running back. You had this quarterback draft that we had a lot of quarterbacks people love. They should have drafted one. I think it should have been Sam Darnold at that point. And that would have been, Eli maybe would have started last year and maybe finished the whole season. But going forward, you would have had a quarterback who could get the ball to OBJ. And I think that would have made him happier too. So in that regard, no, off the field, look, these guys are adults. They're going to do what they want to do. If he chooses to make bad decisions, that's on him. I'm not going to blame the organization. They can only do so much to, keep him in check, if you will. But any personal decisions he makes that are bad, whether it's social media, whether it's who he's hanging out with and what he's doing in these hotel rooms or whatever, that's on him.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, look, I will blame the organization from this standpoint. One, you started with what they did in the draft. They could have killed the Jets, and instead they granted the Jets new life, and now they made themselves in a precarious position, hoping for Dwayne Haskins or some quarterback at a draft spot in a year in which those quarterbacks are probably overvalued because there's fewer of them in this draft. And then, of course, they gave Odell Beckham Jr. this new contract. Remember, they also, let's move Eric Flowers over to the right side. That'll hide him. Did that work this year? The answer is no. So Dave Gettleman, taking over this job, thought he had all the answers, and he's had plenty of missteps. Is Saquon Barkley a good player? Sure. But we've seen guys lead the league in rushing as 3rd and 4th round draft picks and doing it by committee. They should have a quarterback by now. They should have fixed their offensive line, and they didn't have to sign him to that long-term contract. When they did, they made all 3 of those mistakes.
All right, coming up, back to the NBA. Could KD and Kyrie already be planning to join forces? That's next on First Things First.